So before we talk about how companies can get better at personalization, because I'd like to dive into that in a little bit, let's talk about some examples of innovators and what they're already doing and how they're doing it well, and why are they doing it so well. What are some examples that you can give to me of places that are doing it well? Pete, would you like to come in on that one?
I'm going to go for a parallel industry. I think the most interesting stuff I've seen over the last couple of years is in healthcare, largely because it's had to be done. It's been disrupted by pandemics and all that bad stuff, but also I think it's an industry that's generating huge amounts of really interesting data that can be used for like rapid personalization. So I've seen a lot of kind of primary care businesses adopting like DNA and epigenetics as a data source on individuals to really make sure that they're personalizing healthcare to be what we term in healthcare as epigenetic, is in a hallucinogenic, which is how do you treat the causes of something, not just push notifications out about the conditions. And I think healthcare is an industry that the financial services space should look at very, very carefully in terms of the way that it's using certain types of data for personalization. I think that's definitely an area there where like rapid innovation, and it's right at the edges of ethics as well. So it's right there where you've got to be very, very careful at what you do. Um, and so I love some of the stuff that's coming through in terms of personalized healthcare. And I think if banks start to think a little bit more like doctors, then they will start to make some gains and wins that people would appreciate.
The other area that is, you could argue, one of the biggest problems we've got to solve right now is, as well as healthcare, is our impact on the environment. And I think sustainability is, not just about the environment, is about inclusion. And I think the financial services again there can really play a part. I think more and more people are aware now that the money is a huge lever that they have to potentially change an impact or have more of an impact in a certain area to help them make better decisions about where things are going. And so, first of all, it's about having more inclusive experiences within the banking sector to allow anyone everywhere the ability to kind of think about their money and have it being used in a particular way. Um, but then also that having more visibility and transparency across a number of different kind of just ecosystems and industries and supply chains that have existed for years that now have the potential to be disrupted and are ripe for innovation, but maybe have been sacred because of in part a lack of that transparency about how things work, how they operate, how things are funded. And I think that's a real big calling to a number of different industries. And if they don't take that up, I think there's the ability here for people and the average consumer to make their voices more widely heard as well.
And would you say there's a best practice way to approach it? Is there kind of anything out there where you go, that's the methodology to use, or is that something that still needs to be developed?
I think you've always still got to think about what's going to delight a customer. I think that's always still got to be at the heart of what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur or as a scale up company. You can't lose sight of that. Even if it's something that customers don't know they want today, or they don't know they need today, or they don't know they can have today, it's got to be, I think, something that is now more and more design led. It's got to be an experience that delights and you can use, and it's intuitive to a large extent, and it fits within the rhythm of the world that I operate in. It's not something over there or tangential or kind of hard to get to. So I think accessibility more and more now, wherever you are in the world, however you are engaging in the world digitally, or maybe less more so in rural parts of the world, you've got to think about that. And I think that's kind of one thing that you can get the scale from and get the traction, because the scale up then of your idea and how you get to arguably the tipping point of this being something that's pervasive is that still is a little bit of the old world type thing, which is, you've got to get people on there, you've got to go find money to kind of fund your idea. That can now be in small different ways, but you've got to try and get that traction. And I think the more you think about customer delight, the more you think about accessibility, the more you think about being everywhere, you are more likely to have success quicker.